I'm yawning. Something's woken me up. It's night time. So that's a good time for a bedtime story, and I'm in my bed and I'm snuggled down. But I was thinking, it's nearly October, and October the 31st is traditionally a day when we tell scary stories to scare ourselves on Hallows Eve, on Halloween. So, settle down in your teeny tiny beds, plump up your teeny tiny pillows, because I am going to tell you the story of the teeny tiny woman. This is my version of the story. You may know a different one. Once upon a time, because that's the way stories start, there was a teeny tiny woman. She lived in a teeny tiny house upon a teeny tiny hill. And one night, she went to her cupboard, her teeny tiny cupboard in her house, and she opened the cupboard door and there was no food there. So she thought, I'm going to have to go out and get some. I'll only take a teeny tiny while. She put on her teeny tiny cloak and she pulled on her teeny tiny bonnet and she walked out of the house, taking teeny tiny steps in her teeny tiny shoes, all the way, a teeny tiny way, to the teeny tiny churchyard. When she got to the teeny tiny churchyard, she came to a teeny tiny iron gate, and she turned the latch on the gate. It creaked open and she walked a teeny tiny way into the dark, teeny tiny graveyard. She looked around, and on the floor by one of the teeny tiny graves, she saw a teeny tiny bone. So she picked up the teeny tiny bone and she thought to herself, that will make me a bowl of teeny tiny soup for my teeny tiny supper. And she put the teeny tiny bone into her teeny tiny pocket, pulled her teeny tiny cloak closer and her teeny tiny bonnet down, and she walked back through the teeny tiny gate, out of that teeny tiny churchyard, and all the way up the hill to her teeny tiny home. When she got to the teeny tiny house, she took out her teeny tiny front door key, put it in the teeny tiny latch, opened it up, pushed open the teeny tiny door and walked in. She took off her teeny tiny cloak, she took off her teeny tiny bonnet, and she walked slowly up the teeny tiny stairs, all the way up to her teeny tiny bedroom. When she got in, she got into her teeny tiny bed, pulled up the teeny tiny covers and switched off the lights and went to sleep. It wasn't long in the darkness before she heard a teeny tiny voice talking to her. Give me my She switched on the teeny tiny light. She nearly fell out of the teeny tiny bed. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep again. But this time, the voice came louder in her ear. "Give me my bone." She opened her teeny tiny eyes. Her teeny tiny heart was beating a teeny tiny bit faster. She didn't know what to do. I know. I'll pretend I'm asleep. The teeny tiny voice came a teeny tiny bit louder and shouted, "Give me my bone." The teeny tiny woman opened her eyes and said, "Take it!" And all was quiet. That is the story of the teeny tiny woman. But before you go to sleep, who do you think came for the teeny tiny bone? Was it a teeny tiny skeleton missing his teeny tiny foot bone? Was it a teeny tiny dog who'd buried that teeny tiny bone for safekeeping in the teeny tiny churchyard and wanted his dinner? Who knows? Time for sleep now. Good night. I hope you enjoyed the little story. Don't be too scared. It's just a story. Give me my bone. Uh-oh. Bye.